There's always someone on the other end of a product. That's all you have to remember. Something costs $10. Can you really improve your life on 10 cents? In conventional trade, a producer generally receives 1 to 3%, whereas in fair trade, the producer receives 20 to 45% of the retail price. It's a lot easier to improve your economic situation through fair trade.
When I went to Peru, there were 7 of us in the Young Adult Volunteer Program. Ruth went up with me. She said that there was a group of youth in the town. A lot of them were sent or came into Huancavelica to escape the violence. You could have 6 and 7-year-olds living with 12-year-olds taking care of them. So they had to work to provide themselves with food and to buy uniforms, books for school.
These were people who were hungry.
Why is it that a 6 and 7-year-old have to work?
The conventional thought was, if Peru gets money from their gold and their oil and their other minerals, well then the country will develop. That didn't translate into development for their people.
Shining Path movement turned violent. Ended up taking people from their homes, forcibly educating people, eventually arming them, having them fight against the government. The government would come in and pick who they thought were Shining Path members and generally kill them. Well, the government would eventually leave after leaving behind quite a few dead, tortured, raped, animals killed, crops burned. People started pointing fingers again, people were scared. And the Shining Path then commits atrocities. They kill people who they think is helping. And you see this back and forth. And that's not something you forget. And so the trust is destroyed. And there's still very much a lack of trust in these communities.
Up to 80,000 people lost their lives.
Many of the artisans that we worked with were widows from the terrorism or were abandoned women.
That contributed to their poverty, that they were being treated differently.
And so often it was very difficult for a woman to have a real source of income.
Trade for them emerged out of the violence, moving into this fair trade organization and starting to work together.
They wanted to try to organize themselves in some way to work on some income.
I think when you travel, you see that most people have the same desires. They want their kids to be well-fed, educated, be healthy, and have a better life than they've had. Fair trade starts with the producers, ensures that they have a fair wage, that they're getting training, that their lives are improving, and that there's some transparency and accountability throughout the entire chain. Most North Americans, if they knew the things they were buying were produced by people who were receiving a pittance, we wouldn't want to participate in that. When I was getting my MBA, I had learned people won't ever sell anything for less than it's worth. Well, maybe the financial crisis is showing us that we are having to sell houses for less than they're worth. Just like that, women who knit, they would make something, but on a day that they didn't have any money and they needed to buy bread, they would sell it for even less than they had paid for the yarn. That's obviously not fair trade.
Bridge of Hope serves as that liaison.
We went to this group called Grupo Mana. This is the group of women who said they had 3 sewing machines that worked and they could all sew.
When an order comes into Bridge of Hope, they inform the artisans, here are the colors that we need, and here's the quantity that we need by this date.
We tried to tweak their handicrafts that they were already producing, improving their skills, because ultimately that's how they could earn some money to, send kids to school, buy school uniforms.
So the artisans purchase the materials, make the products, and then when they're done, bring them into Bridge of Hope. There, Bridge of Hope and the artisan group do the last quality control check, getting the shipment prepared to send to the U.S. Fair trade allows people to improve their situation through a viable economic model. That's not charity, it's not a handout. The decisions that you make in your hometown, hundreds, thousands of miles away, actually do affect someone in the middle of a village. We're all connected.